Down here in Bray, around the point, all up here, Mesquite Bays. You move on around toward the dugout, Ayers dugout area. All this back in here, working all this shoreline down into Bray itself. The little back lakes there. We had a little influx of water for the last couple of days. So some of these back lakes have lit up pretty good. Been quite a bit of bait working in some of these areas, so some fish have followed that around and in. So we've been working, the deeper edge of Bray, even come back around here on the Matagorda side there as you head towards Cedar Bayou. All that area out and around that. All that area has been pretty decent for us. Getting back into this little back lake that's right around here in Big and Little Brundit area back that way. Of course, that bridge has been built back up and toward the Little Brundit area, so you can't get your boat back through there in one of those areas, so you have to kind of be careful about what you're going to do and how you're going to attack that particular zone. So just be aware of that if you hadn't been back there in a while. But all this area back in here, perfect type of structure we've had. We've had pretty mild temperatures for the most part, so our water temps are starting to climb back up. We're starting to see a lot of good activity with fish and as far as bait goes. So it's all been a win-win for the last week and a half, 2 weeks for us. So hopefully that trend will continue. Got a little bitty cool front that blew in on us here over the weekend, but that won't be a game changer to a great deal. So anyway, the things that we've been working on and we've been really pushing for, been hitting on these the potholes, the grass, the drops, the edges, the guts, the cuts. That's all been the things there, especially with the lower water tide that's been in there. So when the extra water comes in there, so you can kind of push back a little further in some of these back lakes, which I like, a big fan of and doing. I've been working some of the lay in there. We hadn't used the lay in a few weeks, and then of course topwater bait as well, Double D. Those three baits right there, especially in those conditions and those types of areas, have been pretty good for us. We've gotten some decent amount of action with those particular baits. And then, of course, our stuff that we're tried and true with has been our down south 16th ounce jig head, working those areas. And of course, we're in the new moon phase right now, so you can still take advantage of that time frame before we get into those transition days. The fishing in and around the new moon has been very good for us as far as being consistent, catching fish. Redfish primarily. Caught some solid trout here and there. Pulled out a couple of flounder in this past week, so it's been a pretty productive week for us. But again, going back to the flavors on the down south, we've thrown all three sizes: the burner, the original, the supermodel. Haven't got my hands on the big smooth just yet, which is the newest bait for down south. That came out at the fishing show a couple of weeks ago. So if you have an opportunity to get your hands on some of those, it'd be worth checking out. There's a great little video there that's on that as well if you want to take a look at that. The knock and tail, same thing with it. Rogue, heavy metal, and greenback have been the flavors of choice there. And of course, the ones I mentioned earlier, topwater bait, the lay, Double D's been good. Of course, you got your Miradines, both XL and the original have worked well for us. And those in just a little bit deeper water, not so much in the back lake areas. The lay and the topwater and the Double D have been pretty good back in there. And of course, the plastics, we've worked those over the potholes and grass edges and shorelines there and been pretty productive for us. Corky game still going on. If you still like throwing your corkies and want to continue to push those, go right ahead. A few people here and there have been throwing them. The other baits have worked or have been a little bit more productive than what the corkies and stuff have been, but they still catching fish. So all those things in your arsenal, those in your box, make sure that you are paying attention to when your majors and minors are taking place, because that is when our most productive time frames have been on the water consistently over the last several weeks. Also, you got the time change. You always got to factor that in. Everything's kind of jacked up for a few weeks until we can kind of get our bearings on how that's going to affect everything. But it does take effect, and it does have an effect on the fishing to some degree. So just consider all that stuff when you're getting ready to this upcoming week if you get the opportunity to be out on the water. Back here again behind Mud Island, this area back here has been very good to us. The drop edge that's out here on the outside bar, all the way down toward Blind Pass, this whole area back here, man, you've got back lake Little Mouths, which I love to hit more in this late spring and summer, but with, like I say, with the influx of water that we had there for a couple of days, those areas kind of lit up for us for a short amount of time. So we really kind of took advantage of those. So that's why knowing what your tides are and what's going on, where your water levels are at, are very important, especially this time of year, because you can get pushed and pulled with so much water intensity coming in and going out that you can take advantage of short windows in some of these areas that will light up for us. So that's kind of what happened to us here. You know, we're fishing here off a blind pass, this little back lake area here that comes down and goes back into there. All this little flat that dumps out here to the channel, and all that area there, all the way down toward the ranch house, like you're going toward Allen's Bike. So all this in and around here, this whole little shoreline, you got, like I say, you've got the bar. Then, of course, you got the drop that's on the outside, on the base side of it. And then, of course, you got the back lakes that's on the back side of that bar. So you had kind of a twofold scenario thing there. If you had a couple of different people that were with you, you could get somebody off on that deeper edge, working the corkies, working your plastics, throwing the double D that's off in there. Or you can get up here, somebody working the flat area up on the grass, throw your top water up there, maybe throw a double D, plastics in that as well. Your suspended baits out on the deeper edge of it, your lighter baits and more top water, the lele, those types of things up there in that shallower water up there on the grass. So you have some opportunities that we're getting there. Of course, we've gotten in the big lake that's back here behind mud. Has been all very good to us. There's good grass that's in there. There's plenty of bait that's been working in. Of course, it's gotten more active as we've gotten more warmer temps that have come in here just due to our weather conditions that's going on. So it's been pretty nice so far. It's been pretty mild, and hopefully it continues to trend that direction as we move further into our springtime. Some quality trout have been caught back in some of these types of areas, not so much this particular area, but that's the kind of areas that we're trying to focus on into the springtime, because as we transition toward that 70-plus degree water temp, that's when these trout are going to start to want to find grass bed and get ready to lay their eggs. And so this next couple of months are going to be your opportunities to find you a really quality big trout somewhere in and around these types of areas. So if that's the kind of areas that you really kind of want to target into the springtime, if you're into the big trout thing, if you're just looking for redfish, just to catch fish, whatever, this is another typically good area that's out here, because of course when you're coming out here on the point of mud, like you're heading back toward Port A, you know, you've got that deeper edge that's on this east side of the point out there. So another great wading area that you can work and just kind of locate and try to find you some fish that are hanging in those areas. Like I say, down south on the 16th ounce jig head, on all three sizes, multiple flavors, you know, firecracker, supernatural's been good, big papa, twisted tea, the magic grass, Texas roach, any of those types of things. We've tried to match what our water clarity is to the most part. It's been really pretty green water, so a lot of things has been working as far as color. So your choices, you got a broad spectrum to choose from. It's just kind of whatever you have a lot of confidence in throwing, so throw it. And then just, again, let the fish kind of dictate to you what they're wanting. If they have if somebody's catching more fish on a bigger profile as opposed to a smaller profile, then everybody can switch over and you can kind of narrow that down. Just make sure you pay attention to it. Again, majors and minors have been our major focus and point and time frame during our fishing day, whether it be a morning or afternoon or a full day, whatever it is. We try to line up a really good fishing area or a particular area that we're trying to target for that time frame, so it gives us the best opportunity to catch and find our fish in those kinds of areas. Down here, St. Charles Bay area. Been working across on the east shoreline there, all the way back to East Pocket, Egg Point, all that area back around there. Boy Scout camp, Big and Little Sharp. Been hitting a lot of these particular areas. Just working different sections of those water all around that, even all the way back around to the back lakes to the very back of St. Charles. Been working out in front of some of those mouths there just to see if we can locate and find some, kind of cherry picking, just see if there might be a quality trout laying back in there, maybe some upper slot red, flounder or two, something like that. That's kind of primarily what we were kind of focusing on back in those particular areas. If you haven't fished or waded out in front of the back lake mouths back there in the back of St. Charles, it's really muddy back there, just FYI. So if you don't want to contend with that, knee-deep stuff, really sticky mud, you may want to stay away from it or just kind of stay on your boat and drift it if you don't want to contend with it. Of course, you got the northern shoreline as you get back toward Cavasso, all that area back up and down that shoreline there has been pretty good for us. In Cavasso itself, all the way back down toward the State Highway 35 bridge, that shoreline on either the north or the west side have been pretty good for the most part. Just kind of sets up with your wind, just depending on what's going on with it. We've had a few days where it's been kind of blustery or windy. Had that front that came in over the weekend or just before the weekend. It was pretty windy for that one particular day, but it's kind of subsided since. And it's been a little chilly, but these areas really kind of light up when that particular area or that particular type of thing happens for this area. Up around here in Cow Chip, that's another great area that you can get into. Of course, if you get in the back of Cow Chip and some of those back lakes that are back over there, they can get pretty muddy on you as well. But it's exactly the kind of structure that we're looking for this time of year. Again, our water temps have been really good, mid to upper 60s, a couple of days touching 70 in the afternoons have been pretty wild. Almost to the point where you could wet wave, but still probably just a bit on the chilly side to want to do that, because it's not so much once you adjust to the water, when you get out of the water that it becomes a little bit of a problem for you. So we're still probably maybe 3 weeks, maybe a month away from that water temps being consistently in the 70. And of course, it's depending on what our frontal passages do for us. If we have another big strong cold front that comes in the next few weeks, or if we just have a settle in with some mild temperatures, that water temp will continue to rise. And again, that's one of those things that will help push those trout up onto those grass flats like that. That's why you want to kind of target those types of areas around the grass flats, the edges, the potholes that's got bait on it. Those fish, especially the big fish, they're going to want to get up there and they're going to start nesting, start getting ready to get their beds ready to go to start laying those eggs. So something to consider, to think about, depending on whether you're fishing in St. Charles, or if you're fishing in Copano somewhere, or in Aransas, Upper Laguna, Lower Laguna. It doesn't matter. Those are all factors in this time of year, what's going on with the fish. Of course, we've been pretty consistent as far as locating and finding redfish in some of these areas here. Most of them have been that lower slot, few mid-slot fish every once in a while. Like I say, we kind of cherry pick to see if we could find some better fish here and there. But again, same baits we've been using, all three sizes of the down south, multiple flavors that I've mentioned already. The Double D, Lele, Topwater have all been pretty consistent, especially back in these particular areas that I've shown. Of course, your Miradyne, Softdyne XL, have all been throwing a lot of the XL. It's been pretty good for us as well. Pretty consistent bait. And again, everything's been focused in and around the majors and minors. If you don't understand those, if you don't comprehend what the majors and minors do for you, man, feel free to either email, call, text, whatever. Be happy to answer any question you may have about the majors and minors, because it's so important, especially for people that are artificial bait throwers. It's a very essential to your fishing day. And if you're not utilizing or taking advantage of it, you do yourself an in-service by not doing that. You're missing opportunities to find and catch fish.